Welcome, you're listening to Resilient Brown Mamas, three women searching for understanding as we navigate motherhood, mental health, love, and life. I'm Sheena B.
I'm Sonia G.
And I'm Mika Rose. Don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts so other resilient women can find us.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 5. This is your girl, Sheena B. And today we are going to be discussing blended families. Dun, 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 dun.
Man, I'm excited already.
So, all three of us are a product of a blended family. All three of us have had extremely different experiences to a blended family. I guess, how should we start this? Like,
I don't know, because it's so many things to touch on. Like,
it is.
Well, why don't we start with a story, right? So we can give people an idea of where we're going with this. So, I mean, can either one of you or both of you share a story being a child of a blended family?
No, sure. What I can tell you is I've never seen a family as blended as mine ever. And I can, you know what, I would need everybody to take a second, pause this, get a pencil and a piece of paper. And then I would need my siblings to forgive me in advance in case I leave one out. And then I got to ask my parents to not be mad at me because it might make them seem like the king and queen of Thotland when we talk about the different arms of the blended family.
Yes.
So we can start out with Angeline, who's my mother. And Angeline had Tiana and Angie. And then their dad, who is Papa Ray, had Tamia and Ray and Taurus. But then Tamia's mother, Sonia, Queen Sonia, she's no longer here. She had, oh my God, my Sonia had a big family. So I'm not even going to name everybody because I'll forget everybody. But they all loved me as if I was their sister, even though Tamia wasn't my blood sister. She was Angie and Tiana's blood sister. And then Charles, who is my father, is also Tawana's father. And but Tawana, there's no extensions on that side. And then Melvin came into the picture, and then that is Sheena's father. And then Sheena has a beautiful mother, Queen Sheila, whose husband was Curly, who gave her two beautiful children, Christopher and Ashley. And then on top of that, so you still have those other siblings who have possible, whoever's, and then kids, and then we all see each other like, hey sister, hey brother,
right? Hey mom, hey dad.
My seatbelt for the roller coaster ride.
It's crazy, and every time we don't do steps in halves. We don't let anybody say, "Oh, is that your stepsister?" We're all different complexions, heights, and everything. And it's like, nah, that's not my stepsister. All of our mothers has had the other child in their house for some period of time.
Beautiful.
And I saw blended families as this situation. Okay. It was never like we didn't get to see any drama that happened. If they had it, it was none of our business. Maybe the older kids noticed, but those of us, it was like, I'm going to a sleepover at Ma Sonia's house. It's about to be lit. Whatever. You walk into school. I walked into school and it was my brother Jonathan, who's to me, you know what I mean? Like, It's like, this is my brother. And people like, what? I never heard of him. Like, but it was dope. So when I see it now, I don't know what has changed so much, but the whole, I don't want my kid around that person. It almost makes it like impossible to have like this village that I thought was just so fly when I was growing up.
You know what's so funny? I've just always been a product of a blended family. So I don't know what not being a product of a blended family is.
Yeah.
I never thought about it. And for me, it's just more people to love on and more people to love me, more support, right? So like, I don't know. I never thought about it. I'm like, you're weird if you're not from a blended family, you weirdo. Like,
you was raised with the same mother and father. What's going on?
Well, I'm that weird one. I'm the weird one.
You are?
I am that weird one that was raised with the same mother and father.
What's wrong with you?
Right. I'm the outlier. Obviously until 17. So I had no experience with, blended families until then. And even until a few years later when my father, started dating, not that it took him a few years to start dating, but um, experiencing that whole blended family. And, I know for me, I have these negative feelings behind it because, some of the things that he did and how I felt. I won't include my brother because my brother was already on his own, but I was the one that was left. How I felt as if now they're more important, right? Or he gave away things that my brother and I were emotionally attached to because we were kids, to like their kids. And I'm like, yeah, y'all are nobodies. Why is he giving our stuff that we grew up with to y'all? Right. And so ultimately, that was a short period relationship, but he's been in a relationship for 30 years now who is considered what I would say would be considered a blended family for me because they've been together for 30 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you have like, are you connected to like the extended part of that person's family? Like, do you have like a favorite, like of her sister, or is it just she's there and then you're over here? And
no, so she has a son and a daughter. Obviously, we're all grown now, but now she has a grandson and stuff like that. So it's never been, by the time that came into my life, I was pretty much an adult. Like I was already pregnant with my son when they got together. So, I didn't need a mother. I didn't need to build a relationship. I sort of just needed to tolerate her and get along with her. Now, she's a great person because she treats my father. I thank God for her every single day. Right. And
yeah,
she's a sweetheart, but it wouldn't change anything if I chose to not deal with her because I was already an adult.
Yeah. It's so funny that you say that because I'm thinking me and Sheena are like, yay, because we were young. So it was like, this is so cool. But I'm just thinking like when you're older, you're like, girl, I don't need no mother. Like,
Right.
is that when we blend our families? Because I mean, a blended family is multiple parents or other kids, and usually other kids, but it can be just, you remarried and maybe never had other kids. Like my situation, right? Brandon joined our family, me and Genesis, but then he and I made an extension with Duchess. So it's like little Lego pieces. But do you feel like there should be like permission if there's, I know this is crazy because like, I'm a grown up, I don't need no permission.
With permission,
But like, should we talk to older kids about it? Should we set expectations when it comes to blended families? Is that realistic? And can you also, and it's like tenfold, can you also be in a relationship with somebody and not be involved with their kids and like you're in the house? So like, what does blended, I mean, we can hit one topic.
Wow, Sonia, you have something to say? Because I had something to say.
That's right. Because can you be like, oh, I don't need a dad. You could be I'm 10. My dad, lives a few blocks away. You're married to my mother, but
go ahead, go Sheena. Go Sheena.
I feel like that. I personally feel like no matter what the age, it should be a conversation, regardless of the age, right? Because if you're not speaking out loud about it and setting expectations, or even just excuse me, the curiosity of what that child, no matter what the age is, has to say. Because as an adult, the conversation, it's because it's not that an adult needs a parent, right? But it's the conversation of, hey, daughter or son, I'm getting remarried to so and so. This is what's going to make me happy in this point in my life. How do you feel about that? That doesn't mean that the child gets to make the decision whether or not the parent gets remarried. It's just asking, like, it's just courtesy of saying, how do you feel about that? You can call, how do you want to go about this? Like, do you want to just call her Miss? Or do you want to call her, you may not want to call her mom because that's a special title for your mom. But, maybe it's a sweet pet name that you've already, established or something.
That's important too, like the name.
How do you, because it's really that conversation, like, this person is joining this family because I care for them and I love them. And this is going to be my forever person. And I want us all to be comfortable in a space. It's really just a conversation.
These kids be crusty. Go ahead, Sonia.
It is. And I disagree on the part where it doesn't matter the age, because there's a difference, right? So let's say when I got married, my son was a teenager in the household, and I did not, but I should have.
Yeah.
I did not, but I should have, because it was just just like with me, it was flowing, and he was in the relationship from day one, so he was flowing right along. Me being the adult, I saw where this was going, but he's not the adult, so I should have had that conversation with him.
Wow.
Yeah,
right?
it's important.
Even though he has been flowing, right along with me. Where I disagree is the age thing, back to when my dad got with, his wife, not legally married, but whatever, 30 years. Again, I was an adult. I was in my 20s. I could care, honestly, the life that I lived, I don't care. I don't care. One, because I'm not going to tell you not to unless she's like a real derelict, dirtbag, whatever, and I can't stand her. But I could care less, because at this point, I'm living my own life. I don't care what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I do see where if we don't get along, it would be a problem, things like that. So I see both sides to it. But I know for me, my dad did not have to have a conversation with me because I could care less.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why a conversation comes in, because what if the parent doesn't even know what you're feeling? Like, had it been a conversation, maybe you would have opened up, Sonia, to letting him know, like, whatever it was that was on your mind in that time frame, right? Because he had no idea, because you weren't discussing it. He never asked. But had it been a conversation, you could have discussed certain things. Because I know for like me and Meek met I think it was, I don't know what year it was, but I had just turned 9, and we're 2 years apart. So she just had a birthday. I just turned 9, and we met, and she was like, "You're my sister." And I was like,
I was used to it at that point. Welcome, new kid.
And she just like put me under her arm, and she was like, "Yo, you're gonna stop wearing these crusty ass mismatched socks." And she would like teach me stuff.
She's like, "I got you."
Yeah, I got you.
Oh my
right?
God, my sweet
And she was my person from that day on. We were inseparable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, 2 kids that guys are gonna bond.
But we also, because at that point I was like the umpteenth kid coming into the blended family. So like she said, it was already routine. So like I was used to being around her dad, and she being around my dad, and then her being around my mom, and then me being around so-and-so's mom. And then we'd all be in one big house, and it'd be like 10 sets of parents, and we're all like, "Hi mom, hi dad." So like,
oh my God, it's so beautiful.
Our blended family was always a conversation.
And we never had to be like sat down like there's a new, it was just like, and it's not like our parents were, I mean, they're older, so they didn't have a million relationships. It's not like it was Grand Central Station or anything, but I mean, clearly they made good choices. I mean, we all turned out great, and all the dads are supportive in one way or another to whichever kids, because that everybody's relationship is different also with the parents, and we were learning how to navigate that. That's something to navigate. Because there's still, speaking of blended, there's still who's the favorite and who's the baby, and then who's the baby. But then I'm kind of an only child because these 2 people are my only parents. So, those are the kinds of things too that go on, why you get all this attention, but that's my father. Like all that kind of stuff happens because there's no discussions.
Because there
were no discussions. So it kind of flowed, but it was because we came up in a generation where you don't talk to your kids about your business. I'm paying the bills. I'm the one doing all this. So you just need to fall in line, and that's how that goes. But I think a conversation is great, depending on who, because some kids, you could be with Oprah, and your child gonna hate them because they want their mother to their self. So it's like you can ask them, but is it in vain, or is it just for them to give their opinion, but you still gonna do what you want? So kind of what's the purpose? So I mean, it could go either way. Genesis wanted me to get married, really, because she wanted me to leave her alone a little bit. Yeah. So whatever. I heard you laugh, Sonia. Whatever. I'm a smother. Yes, she wanted a sibling too, so I could have somebody else to concentrate on. But that made it easier. You know what I'm saying? So, but I love the fact that we have a blended family. I think everybody has benefited from it. Yeah. That's my take on it.
Well, we'll stop there. We're going to go pay some bills, and then we are going to get right back to it because this is juicy.
Yes.
I wanted to touch on what blended means from the perspective of a child. So, like, I know for me growing up, prior to me even meeting Mika, at 7, I found out that I was a product of a blended family because, like Mika said earlier, I have a younger brother and a sister from my stepdad that I've mentioned in past episodes. So, technically, I'm my parents' only child. But then my mom has, excuse me, 2 other children. And I grew up in a household with my mom and my stepdad and my brother, and my little brother and my little sister. And for me, I just always was just like, okay, well, this is how I grew up. I'd never seen anything wrong with it. It's like, this is my family. These are my siblings, and that's it. And then I meet Meek, and then I gain all these other sisters, right? A whole bunch of sisters just come out of the woodworks in one day, right? And now it's this huge family that I never even anticipated, right?
Complete with aunts, uncles, cousins,
it just came along
nieces,
with all these other people,
nephews.
right? Like I was 9 and I was like, I had a nephew, like, you know, out of
Who's
nowhere.
a really cool dude.
Yeah, love him to death. But like, it just, I don't know, it just was normal to me. Like I said, I have always grown up in a blended family. I don't know what it's like to not be in, but I will say, as I got older, as an adult, I feel like that's when I started to feel and see all of the different dynamics of the blended family. Because when you're a kid, you're just like la-di-da-di-da in the world, right?
Right.
But then as you get older, you really start seeing how those dynamics shift. And they're not always for the worst, right? It's not always for the worst, but like, you start seeing how things are different, how maybe one is treated versus the other, who's closer than who, like all of these different things, because I came in on a sister circle that was already built.
Okay.
So a lot of the times I feel like I stand off to the side, not because they make me feel that way, but because they all grew up in a time together that I had nothing to do with. There was a period of time I had nothing to do with the experiences, right? So I don't have anything to lend or anything to say. I just kind of stand in the corner and wait my turn.
But then on the back end, because we were closer in age, we were able to build memories and things. But with me, they had gone off into their life. So it was almost like Sheena was that buffer for me, like that emotional support for me, because now I'm just technically an only child at home because my siblings are older, having families, married and everything, because they're upwards of 9 years older and more than me, right? So yeah, I was like, well, this is pretty cool, because so we got to pick up kind of where that left off. But on another note, as far as like the child experiencing like through my child's eyes, because Genesis also has she's part of a blended family. Her father has a whole family in Sweden. And I know it's hard for me, and I feel like parents need to pay attention to this too, because I'm gonna be careful. No, I'm not gonna be careful. It's very easy to enjoy somebody's father and that father be a father to your children, while there's another child over somewhere else watching you from the outside. And I think that we don't talk about that. I think that people think that they're winning in those situations, and they're not thinking of how it looks to the kid. Just because a child is not in your home does not mean that they're not part of your family. And there's a way to make them always feel incorporated, always feel included. When she's not here, if I buy a new Christmas ornament, I call her and she wants to know, you know what I'm saying? If the water heater blows, she's like, no, you got to tell me what's going on at the crib. Did all the lights go off? We always make her feel like she's here, even though she's in college. Yeah. And I think it's important when people are in blended families, even though you live in another house, make your child feel like they're still part of that house. And then, you know, How does that work with the spouse? We talked about expectations in these conversations. Are we
Mm,
even talking to our new mates about how they plan to treat our children,
mm.
Right.
regardless of how they feel about the other parent? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think a lot of people do that. And it causes a problem. It causes a wedge. And then it makes those insecurities. Why them and not me?
Yeah.
Why does he want to be there with those kids and not me? You know what I mean? Is he doing this on purpose, even showing off to hurt me or to hurt you and in turn hurt me? That's not her words. I'm just saying this is the things that we feel and
Yeah.
see when we're not going hard, bumping for that kid that's in the other side of the blended family. You know what I mean?
And
Yeah.
I like
I'm
me.
glad. I'm glad you did. I'm sorry, she.
Oh, sorry,
No, I was
sorry.
gonna say I'm glad you did because I know you hesitated in.
I did.
No, but
But
I'm
then I
very
forgot who I was.
no, but I'm glad because you're right. It does have to be, discussed and brought to light because I'm gonna be honest. When I was married, there you go, blended family. The only time I really really focused on the other children was when they were with us, right? Because he would get them for the weekend or they would come visit or we would get them for the holidays. Not that intentionally we excluded them, but unfortunately, like we were so busy with,
Yeah, you're
in the
daily.
moment, in the moment. And there was nothing like my son and his two kids at that time, they got along just fine. Like my
Beautiful.
son is actually the godfather to the oldest child's kid, right?
Oh,
So
I
one
love
of his
it.
kids went and had a baby, and so my son is actually the godfather to her child, and they got along very well. But that's a great topic to talk about. Like even if they're not in the home, include them. Even if you have to FaceTime them, call whatever, call them and all that stuff. But
Because
yeah,
because I mean, even in me and Meek's situation, like Meek, I never lived with my dad ever,
Yeah.
but Meek lived with my dad,
okay,
and there were events and things that I was not a part of. There were things that I was not a part of, and even till this day, I'm like, oh well, I wasn't there, so
And it sticks, man. And this is
like
why I'm
y'all are up shit's
saying,
creek because if you're waiting for me to call you to tell you happy whatever, I'm not doing it. Guess what? I wasn't there.
and people got to think about that kind of,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying. And it's so easy. And like I said, sometimes the other women be feeling like they winning the less time you're with your other children. And I honestly, I was never that kind of woman, especially because I was a single mom who was like, I won't date somebody like a baby's daddy. I didn't attract men who had children. My husband did not have children before me, but I did have an issue dating men who had children. I felt crazy. I don't see how women relish in he's spending time with me. He's buying me bags and all this stuff. When you sitting here hearing him argue with his, other family, because that's what they are,
yeah, that's
about
lack of maturity.
about things like, why are you asking me for sneaker money? I gave you
I mean,
$300 for the month. Those kinds of things. I can't sit there with a guy like that. So it
no, no.
kind of boggles me
Yeah,
when women do that, and that's a whole nother thing. But it affects that child, and it's like
Yeah.
there's a child here, and he's being a dad to your kids with him and your other kids, but this child's just over here doing
yeah.
whatever. And
I mean
because
that's a reflection of him,
it
right? And so
is,
you're
and the
not
woman though, I'm not gonna lay up under you, bud. I can't do
But
it,
what
my friend.
right, and that's
happens?
what I mean. That's a reflection of that man. And why would you want to be with a man of that character?
Because usually the woman is of that character. Some of the women we
Yes,
love the most, they love that he's sitting there choosing them. And some of them will
over
say, well, I
them.
can't help it because the woman is like this or she's acting like that. This is the same man who's sleeping outside the sneaker store for a 12 o'clock
Oh
in
my
the
God,
morning
no way.
Jordan drop. You
Oh
know
God,
what I'm saying?
I've never
So
done.
what
But he's
happened?
not sleeping outside the school to see his baby.
What
Ask some questions.
happens? What happens if, like, let's just say you're in this relationship, this blended family relationship, you guys want to take things to the next level, right? And the other parent is not allowing you to be the type of blended bonus parent that you want to be. One, because you care for the kid, and two, because like if
It's
you
part of the
understand,
package.
the importance of loving on this person's
Hmm.
child, like, you know, I got a cough. I'm sorry. excuse me, you understand the importance of loving on this person's kid the way you would want them to love on your child, but that other parent is just not, they're not having it for whatever their reasoning is, right? Whatever their reasoning is, they're not having it. Like, what does that look like? How does that play out? Because I know for me, and there were some other factors that played into that whole situation, but like my past relationship, it just wasn't a thing. I had conversations with the person, many conversations, and it just was, it was just like, nah, I ain't having it. Yeah. And I've gone out of my way. I mean, the things that she wasn't even doing for her own child, I was doing, and it just wasn't taken, it wasn't appreciated. And it got to the point where I was like, you know what?
I know. Yeah, because it does get exhausting.
I washed my hands of it because I can't keep going over and beyond. And it really, I was doing it for the kid, really. Right? Because the kid deserves it, right? And because my heart is pure, right? It wasn't because I want people to be like, oh, look at what Sheena's doing. It had nothing to do with that. Yeah. But when that other parent was just not having it, I said, you know what? It's okay. Yeah. I'm going to play my role in the back as a bonus mom. If she needs me, I'll be here. If she don't need me, it's okay. Because I know, like, when Meek's mom started dating my dad, it was like a magical summer that summer when me and Meek met. I remember my parents we was in the Beretta. Remember the Beretta, the red Beretta? And we was all over Boston. You hear me?
Nobody
in the red Beretta.
Nothing. Yeah.
And it was me, mom, and Meek all summer just doing stuff, just random, don't make no sense stuff, right? And ever since then, she's just been my bonus mom.
Yeah, you get the cuss outs that we get. You get the...
I don't get no special treatment because
you get the craziness that we get
because I'm his daughter. Like she treats me crazy today, up tomorrow, loves me in all the moments.
You were her own. Yeah, like your own.
And it's been like that my entire life. And then Meek comes to my house and my stepdad loved on her. There wasn't a time that she didn't come to New York that my dad didn't stop everything to go pick her up from the train station, no matter where she came in at. My mother welcomes her with open arms. She welcomes my other sisters and my nieces and my nephews with open arms. She knows all their names. She knows everything about them.
Yeah.
So like for me, I just was like, well, if I can't have the same results as I
have, you have that expectation. Yeah.
I don't want no parts.
But let me say this. I mean, I know for me, I did so the kids, because it was 2 kids, two different parents, right? So definitely blended. Wow. And I'm talking about the marriage. I did all that I can do while they were with me, while they were in my house, while we were all together as one unit of a family. And I thank God that my ex-husband and those women, they were fine. They didn't have any drama. They didn't have anything. So there was no issues. There was the girl's mom didn't even know she existed. Like they were fine, right? She's with us, no problem. So I loved on her just the same when she was with me. I did for her whatever it was that I did, just the same. Now the son's mom, she just seemed to have an issue with every time the kid came over to my house, as if, right? Because now there's 2 boys, right? So it's my son and him, and now they each feel like they have a brother because they were each single, not single.
Yeah, the only kid
only children, right? So they're gonna get into things. They're gonna do things, but she felt like if he did something out of his normal goody 2-shoe self when he's at home, he came home. He came home different because he's around my son. Nah, bitch. Your son is being a boy, rightfully so, naturally so.
Yes.
That you're trying to baby him and think that he's like this little angel. Yeah. Let him be a boy.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything illegal. They're not committing crime. They're not hurting nobody. He's just not a little angel sitting on the couch with his hands on his lap.
because kids will be kids.
Speaking of that, because I know we got to move on, but I want the community to chime in, because I know too many people, because we loving on these babies, we calling them angels, we adults, and we taking on all the responsibility for all the foolishness. But these little kids be coming up in these situations, and you want to try to love on these little kids, but they don't want you. Maybe it's the mama told them to go over there and act crazy. The dad, who sent you, you little monster? Because
that is my signal to be like, we can't continue this relationship.
That's what I was gonna say, but but I know so many women who's just like, I just can't stand a little girl. Whenever she come over here, I don't talk to her. Or whenever he come over here, he don't talk to me, because it's just like, I want the man or I want the woman. And this child and changed their mind and decided they want to give me their butt now that they turned whatever age.
Don't get me started.
Right.
Listen, we're not gonna go longer than normal if we really get into that
don't
there.
Get me started.
So that's why I said I'm gonna leave it up to the community. I want them to hit us up on that, because I want the tea. Because we be telling y'all all our business. So at this point, y'all got to tell us something.
Well, I feel like with that, since Meek has already put out the call to action, we want to know what your thoughts are on that. So you can email us at resilientbrownmamas@gmail.com, or you can go straight to our website, resilientbrownmamas.com. Hit us up and let us know what your thoughts are, because we want to know, because we know we're not the only ones out here, blended, doing the blended family thing. And, we share, like Meek said, we sharing all our business. So we want to know some of your business too. So we're going to go pay some bills. We're going to be right back.
All right. Well, welcome back, Resilient Circle. We saved our last subtopic until the end, if I can get the words out my mouth, because it's just that juicy. So, as a spouse or a partner in a blended family, I know Mika, Sheena, you guys have some sort of experience or story that you can share with us. That much I know.
Yeah.
I will wait my turn, because I think I need to take a sip of coffee here and calm down a little bit.
So I'll start, because mine's is just like real short. I mean, it was only for a little bit of time. I did my best to be the type of partner that was welcoming and loving and caring, like I was saying in the last segment. But it just didn't work out because the other parent just didn't want it to happen. And I had to respect that. As another mom, I had to respect that. And I just said, I'm going to fall back into the background, right? I'm just going to let him play dad. And as time goes on, we'll see, we'll do it baby steps, right? As time goes on, we'll just see how it takes us. But I'm not going to force anything. I'm not going to try to make this situation what I think it should be in that moment, right? And I mean, thankfully, I ended up exiting the relationship, so I didn't have to deal with that anymore. But the caveat, the ending to that is that at the end of the day, my son has a sibling out there that he's not around, that one day he's going to meet or want to know about, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a whole nother topic for another time. But for me, I was thinking about the entire family as a whole when I was making the gestures that I was making. But when my gestures weren't being received well, I had to make a decision, and I decided to wash my hands of the entire thing. Okay. Yeah. And as my son gets older, and I constantly have these conversations with you ladies, when he starts asking about things, I will reveal that to him. And if he decides that at any point in time in his older life, when I say older, I mean over 15, where he can make decisions for himself because he understands, right? He can go search that person out if he chooses to. That's like the ugly side of blended families, because not everybody is always on board for it.
Okay. So Sheena, I totally get that. So let me just ask you this, because I think in my brain I have more of a specific question. Your experience with that partner, him being a father to your child that you already had, to your daughter.
you know, he was there. He was there. He was present, right? And I think sometimes, speaking to like me and Meek's situation, we ended up living in a household together. So he was with her every day. You know what I mean? We did family like things because we're not going to not live our lives because the other child doesn't physically live in our home on a daily basis, right? A 24/7 basis. So we're going to do things. And a lot of it just, because I'm the type of mom that I am, everybody who knows me knows I'm a hands-on mom. I'm gonna make we're gonna make memories. We're gonna have experiences. We're gonna do all of the things. And I think that other parent took it as we're leaving her child out. And it was never that we were leaving the child out. I used to say, hey, I'm planning such and such for such a date. You call and get so and so that we could all go. But then the mother doesn't tell the child because she's being whatever. And now, because she doesn't allow the child, that child misses out and then finds out that she didn't go chop down a tree or she didn't go to the museum or whatever.
Yeah.
And it makes me look bad when really
I was going to say, you're always going to be
it
the
made me
person that
look
looks
bad
bad.
because I was the person that said to the parent, my partner, hey, make sure so and so is available. We're going to go take family pictures. We're going to do all these things. And like I said, I had to like wash my hands of it because the other parent just wouldn't allow me to be what I wanted to be and what I could be. But as far as him to my daughter, he was good. I mean, he was a provider, he was there. And I think that the other parent didn't take that well. She didn't take it well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I get it. I'm not mad at her for it. I get why she felt that way. But she also had to understand you can't have your cake and eat it too. If he calls you and says, hey, let me get her this weekend. I know this is not my weekend, but this is what I'm doing and I want to include her. You can't be selfish. You can't think about yourself in that moment. You have to think about the child.
Agreed.
Girl, you know these mamas be spiteful because we always complaining about, oh, I just want a break. Oh, I just want this and that. So for you to go so far, and I see it, for you to go so far as to be concerned about, well, it's not your weekend, and then you're sitting there, your kids freaking watching Nickelodeon around the clock, and you're on Instagram, opposed to, and I've seen it, letting them go to the circus. It's like sometimes we just gotta grow up in those situations because unfortunately, oftentimes the other mother isn't trying to incorporate the child. So you gotta strike that iron while it's hot, you know?
Let somebody call me right now and tell me they want to take these.
So Meek, I know you have a whole, I know you have a whole husband.
I got a whole husband, and so he's you cannot call Genesis his stepdaughter.
Good.
And for him to be like, oh, this is my daughter, and people look at him for like 5 minutes like, bruh, I have known you for 30 years and you walking up with this 9-year-old child, and he gonna stare at you while they staring at him. Like, and I'm not explaining it. He didn't explain it to his family. He just wasn't, this is my daughter and it is what it is, you know? But so I mean, he pays for everything for her, all of her experiences, right. Volleyball, getting her into it, getting her there. Like, he's very driving her to college, making sure all her college stuff is taken care of. Like that you cannot tell him that that's not his daughter. And for me, we have two very different personalities and very different parenting styles. So it does become a problem when he's parenting because we parent so different. Mm-hmm. And I take a lot of things really personal. I want him to be very careful because to him, this is my daughter. So if I'm on her about doing chores, I'm just on my daughter about doing chores. But for me, I still never fully, I was always a single mom still in my head. And you're telling my kid to do A, B, and C. And I don't like this. Like, this is my baby. And, you're this man with this energy that I can't stand. And how is this going to affect her? And some of that even, I think, has affected how she accepts his parenting. Just to be completely honest.
Yeah.
She learns from me. And she takes her cues from me. And I've actually had my therapist say, you heard this when he said that. It was supposed to hit like this, but because you reacted that way, it hit like that.
Yeah.
You're creating a separation where all he's doing is being a dad. The same boo-boo he gives Genesis, he gives Ducky, and she's only 5, I mean, only 6. You know what I mean? That's how he parents. So if that's conversations you got to have offline, fine, but don't let your insecurities about him not being her birth father affect how you let him parent.
That's good.
Because he's doing everything right? So, oh gosh, I wonder if he's gonna hear. That's what he get for not listening. Don't y'all tell him to listen, because he'll never find out that I said
I'm
that.
texting him now.
No, that's really good, because as a mom, you sort of find yourself being in the middle, right? You got one foot on one side of the fence and one foot on the other side of the fence, and you always kind of feel like you're choosing one before the other, and you feel,
because we hear people say that. When
yeah,
my mother chose my stepdad over me. Chose how? Like a lot of times it's not, they didn't choose anything. They're in a relationship independent of you. Now, if you tell me that there was some type of abuse and your mom was siding with him, which I've heard that too, that's very valid.
Yeah.
But my mom, I asked my dad if I could have hot cocoa. He said no, but my mother said yes.
Yeah, that's
so
not.
She said no because he said no. Oh, no, that's not how it goes. Because it's still got to be a united front, and it's probably a good reason why he said no. Once he clarified for me, now I got to put my friend part aside and be your parent. It's 11 o'clock. No, you can't have cocoa. Simple. But it becomes like this big thing because you don't want to be that mom who chooses your spouse over your child.
And I think too, it also comes to trusting your partner or your spouse to do the right thing, or to incorporate, like, see how you parent your child, right? And incorporate that in how they deal with your child, right? When it comes to like disciplining or just any type of treatment. Because I found myself in my situation like saying like, well, I don't usually yell at Jada. So maybe yelling at her, she's the kind of kid, like coaching him, like she's the kind of kid you could just have a conversation with her. Like you could just sit with a bowl of cereal at the table and just talk to her, and she'll be like, oh, okay, if that's what you need, or if that's what you want, oh, okay, I can do it like that. But you don't necessarily have to yell at her to get your point across. But if that's all he knows,
right? Yeah. Again,
you know what I mean? So I mean, it also comes to like trusting her, because I know he didn't really parent Jada too much. I think a part of that was, one, he just didn't know how, and then he also was scared. And two, Jada really didn't need his parenting, because I did the parenting. I was the parent.
Right. So I'm going to share my experience, and it might actually put us a little bit over time, because I know you guys are going to give your feedback, and it might overflow. So in my case, again, my child was already like a teenager, right? But because of our experiences, what I realized, and this is not just me taking my son's side or feeling some kind of way, what I realized before exiting that relationship is that my husband felt some kind of jealousy toward me. Now let me finish, because it's going to be good. Let me get this all out. So he felt some kind of jealousy towards my son. And I honestly felt like he was trying to create a wedge sometimes. You're going to hear me say it over and over again. It was my son and I against the world. And we're talking, it was already, I think, maybe 17, 16, teenage time. I lose track of those years. And it was strange. Now, the other side to that was, I started realizing how my ex-husband was treating him. And then that brought out the mama bear, right? And there were some things I didn't see, because my son keeps things to himself. But then I would see where my ex-husband wasn't as welcoming as he started off being in the relationship, right? And so I got with that relationship because I saw the family unit. But when his child started growing up and was removed out of that family unit, because now he's living his own life, there's no longer 4 of us. Now it's back to 3 of us, which is my child. I started seeing him now trying to just not be a part of the 3 of us anymore. He tried to make it like it's me and him.
Wow.
Right? That's a whole lot right there to kind of like dissect. But I am that mom or was that mom, that I will choose my son over you, especially you're
Boom.
not his biological. And I did it to his biological when my son was smaller. So I still chose my son over whoever.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
But as a person who's not the biological, you can't come up into this family and then start treating my child for the negative term like a stepchild.
Yeah.
The bad meaning. So I mean, y'all could take that and run with it, but I had to get my son and myself out of there.
I
And
love that for you,
out of
though.
the relationship because it was my house, not out of the house, but my house. But
Right. No, I love that. Did you have any regrets?
No, not at all. I felt
Yeah.
like it was a ton of bricks lifted off of me once I got him outside on the other side of that door.
And
Because
what
it
was
must.
oh go
No,
ahead.
go ahead.
Nika.
No,
I was
you
gonna
go.
ask, what was the conversation between you and your son after all was said and done? Like, what was that conversation like? Like you acknowledging all of that.
Again, back to the lack of communication in our relationship. We never talked about it because there were some other negative things within the relationship that also led to me getting out of
Yeah.
that, cheating and all that stuff. So we never spoke about it.
Okay.
But I do know some of the things that he felt. One example, and I'll say this, and then I'll throw it back to you guys. Was, my son came into the house, and with manners, you walk into the room, you say hi to everybody. So he came and he said hi to me, but my husband, we were sitting on the couch together, and then he just didn't even acknowledge my ex-husband, and I'm like, I didn't raise you like that.
Right.
To the kitchen. So I walk in the kitchen, and I'm like, you walk in the room, you say hello to whoever. You didn't say hi to him. I'm not going to say his name because it's just not even worth it. And he's like, yeah, I know. I said, but he doesn't say hello to me when he walks in the house, so why should I?
Wow.
And I was like, oh, that's what we doing.
Revelation.
No, we not. Not with my child.
Revelation.
No, we not.
Yeah. Oh, Sonia was like, you're the biggest loser. You're out of here.
Yeah. In several ways.
Decision made.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta do it. You're fired. Sometimes you gotta make those tough choices, and then you gotta ask, like, if the good outweighs the bad. You don't want your children suffering. But then if it was up to my child, I'm not that mom, but there's some parents that's like, girl, if I could get rid of you if it was that easy, like, since we just kicking people out the house because they got an attitude or they're not the warmest person.
Right.
But when it's a person who really is an outsider, it's you and your son, and then there's really, like, you're blessed to be in this family, and then you switch gears on us. Yeah. I could see where you would without a doubt be like, nah, this isn't for me.
Bye.
Yeah, yep. Bye, Felicia.
Pull the lever.
Listen,
don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
Yeah, and I mean, no, I was gonna say no love lost. I mean, I wish him well. I don't even know where he is on this planet. We don't communicate. None of that. Kind of don't give a shit. But yeah, that was not gonna happen on my watch. I mean, it was like it was a different person. Once we got married, worried about, what's in the refrigerator, who ate this. Listen, if I knew you were like that, we wouldn't even be dating.
Wow. Yeah.
So you weren't like that all those years we were together, but I don't know, something changed after we said I do. I know how to say I don't real fast, and I did.
Well, before this goes off on a tangent,
which is fine with me.
It's fine with me, but we are, we're not going to keep everybody on here too much longer.
I guess it's safe to say that navigating a blended family is not something that kind of like, it's linear. It's something that it keeps going because different seasons require different dynamics.
Yes.
And as the children get older, right? As the parents get older, the needs that need to be met are different. And so what blended looked like 10 years ago versus what blended looks like now is completely different. And I think it's safe to say that we should, for those of us that are in blended situations, to be mindful that the needs of yesterday are not the needs of today. And to always kind of just be, what is a good word? Always be open to pivot. Always be open to pivot to what your family is in need of in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Right? There's always going to be growth no matter what.
There's always going to be growth. And, I speak to me and Meek's situation because to me, it's not unique, but to some, it may be very unique, right? And our family has had to pivot many a times, and we're still pivoting, right?
And because our parents set the bar high, which is why we don't just sit here and be fooling around with anybody's son and all these babies' mamas, and you can act this way or limit what I do with these children. In my mind, this is what it looks like. It's blissful. It works.
Yeah.
It's fruitful. So it can't be this drama.
Yeah.
What are we doing that for? And then at the end of the day, these are small children. These children did not ask to be here, and they certainly did not ask to be put in these weird situations where you didn't choose properly the first time, where because sometimes that is the case, or you changed your mind, like in the situation we just talked about. You were one way at first and then you changed. These children have to change with this, and the least you can do is try to create a beautiful environment for them and put your foolishness aside.
Agreed.
I love it.
That was wrapping it up very well.
Yeah.
Yes. And Nick Cannon, if you're listening, I would love to be part of your blended family, sir. I'll be baby mama number 13.
No, what?
And my husband, I promise you, he wouldn't mind either.
Okay, I won't respond to that because we'll keep going. But what, number 13? So that's 12?
I don't know. Well, I'm just guessing because by the time I meet him and have a baby, I'm sure there'll be another one in between. I'm just trying
to fill.
But he has that many?
He has, I think, 11 now.
Yeah.
Listen, I know people who have $4 in their pocket and have 8 kids. So all I'm saying is, Nick, holla at me.
Well, on that note, Nick, holla at her. Resilient Circle, we love you.
Thanks for putting up with us. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. Until next week, I'm Mika Rose.
I'm Sonia G.
And I'm Sheena B.
And you are resilient, beautiful people. We love you.
Thank you for listening to Resilient Brown Mamas. We hope you enjoyed the conversation today. Be sure to subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. And remember, we want to hear from you. Email us at resilientbrownmamas@gmail.com to share your resilient stories and comments. You can also check us out at resilientbrownmamas.com for merch and more.